Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your interest in our article. The paper article is Being Alone Deserve More Sympathy. Influences of victim number, cause acuteness, and individual differences in self-control on charitable advertising effectiveness. My name is Chuntuan Zhang. I'm the professor from National Sun Yat-sen University in Taiwan. My co-authors include Yicha Chen and Jiahan Zhang. Both of them were my students. So now let's take a look at these two ads. We may actually see that sometimes advertisers choose to present a single victim. Sometimes advertisers would choose to present a group of victims. So in addition to NPO as ad sponsor, sometimes we may see companies using cause-related marketing to sponsor a charitable issue. So in this paper, we would like to examine whether presenting a single identified victim backfire when the factors of cause acuteness and consumer differences in self-control are taken into consideration. Based on the literature, identifiable victim effect suggests that people pay more attention to single victim, and that would lead to higher advertising persuasion. However, sometimes we actually see a group of victims are presented in ads. We actually wonder when can be a group of victims enhance advertising persuasion. So we actually consider cause acuteness can be an important boundary condition. The literature suggests that the causes can be classified as sudden disaster or ongoing tragedy. What that matters when advertisers focus on different ads, focus on the different causes. The third variable we are interested in is consumer individual differences in self-control. Researchers suggest that people can be interdependent or independent, and the focus will be different. What would that matter in advertising persuasion? So let's move on to our hypothesis. In hypothesis 1, we suggest when people with an interdependent self-control, they are more responsive to a group of victims when the charitable issue is sudden disaster, because the feelings of belongingness will involve interdependence guilt when it presents a group of victims. The second hypothesis, hypothesis 2A, focus on independence facing a sudden disaster. We actually predict the opposite result as what we just mentioned in hypothesis 1. We actually propose that for independent self-control, they are more responsive to a single victim because independence pursued personal autonomy, and a single victim would more likely to make them feel they accomplish their charitable goals. For H2B, we actually suggest no such differences can be found in ongoing tragedy because ongoing tragedy is not emerging enough to catch attention of independence, and they wouldn't feel redundant to process the charitable messages. H3 suggests guilt would be the underlying mechanism to explain the three-way interaction. So this is a framework of this research. We included 3 independent variables and one mediator. Study 1, we used NPO contest. We show a fictitious magazine column describing a charitable issue. To manipulate victim number, we show story depicting a suffering person or a number of identified and disadvantaged people who need help. To manipulate cause acuteness, we chose earthquakes and poverty to manipulate sudden disaster and ongoing tragedy. Self-control was measured via a 12-item 7-point Likert scale. The final samples were 243. Because self-control was a measure, so we used regression to analyze the three-way interaction. We have two dependent variables, attitude toward the ad and intended donation amount. We see very similar pattern. For interdependence, we show that for sudden disaster, they will show higher attitude toward the ad when a group of victims is presented. Opposite results can be found in independence. We found that a single victim's actually leads to higher attitude toward the ad, and we see no such differences for the ongoing tragedy. So what about cost-related marketing contests? Would the result be the same? So we include 541 participants, and we use a priming test of self-control by asking participants to read a short article on life's values. And that is a manipulation of self-control. And after that, participants were exposed to one ad by a 2x2 cost agonist and victim number. Okay. And the ad sponsor was a company manufacturing water bottle. Because the three independent variables were manipulations, so that is why we use ANOVA. So we actually see the results for the interdependence, and we actually see the results similar with what we actually found in study 1. They for independence, they were more responsive to a single victim. Okay, and we actually have 3 DVs: attitude toward the ad, attitude toward the CRM, and purchase intention. And the opposite results were found for independent self-control. The third study, we use a real NPO World Vision, and we have 545 participants, and the priming test of self-control is different from study 2. We use a fictitious personality test, and after that, we show again a different ad to participants. Okay. To manipulate sudden disaster, we use 2020 borough explosion, which was the time we collected the data. For the ongoing tragedy, we use Lebanon civil war. The results were very similar to what we found in study 2. And we actually run the mediation effect with Hans 2015 bootstrapping 5,000 times of resampling, showing that guilt was the underlying mechanism. We have 3 important concluding remarks. Number 1, when people with interdependent self-control and ad showing a sudden disaster depicting a group of victims leads to higher advertising persuasion. But when the people with independent self-control, the result will be opposite. The ad showing the sudden disaster depicting a single victim leads to higher advertising persuasion. No such differences of self-control when participants rate a story of ongoing tragedy, presenting either a single victim or a group of victims. Underlying mechanism was guilt. We propose 2 directions for future research. Number 1, emotional contagion. What if advertisers show different facial expression, happy or sad? Will that moderate the effects which we found in the study? The second one is urgency of need. Some causes are related to primary needs. Some causes will be related to secondary needs. Will that also matter in the effects we found? Thank you very much for your interest in this article. We hope you like it.